Hello, 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 fellow FNAF fans. Afton Games FNAF President here, and welcome back to AftonTheory. On my first AftonTheory video, I explained how the Five Nights at Freddy's lore is all messed up and super complicated, only because of us, not because of Scott. But then I also said this. Now, there are some things, of course, that Scott would have made, right? Like, storyline-wise. He could have had something in mind. So now, I have to explain what it would be like if MatPat didn't happen, if we didn't mess it up. First things first, I'm going to ignore all the sequels, because some of the sequels are actually based off of what we were saying, which only makes it worse and worse and worse. So it's only going to be FNAF 1, the first game. We all know by now that Scott didn't have an idea when he was making the first game, and it was kind of its own thing. For example, you're not playing as Michael Afton, you're playing as Mike. Just Mike, because Michael Afton wasn't even a character at that point. Yes, there was Missing Children's, but there was no William Afton, at least not by name. Thank goodness. So in case you're a freaking Five Nights at Freddy's newborn, here's what FNAF 1 is. You work as a security guard at the restaurant Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and there's animatronics coming to get you in your office. You have two doors that can shut, but it wastes a lot of power because the building is old and can't stand it. So the building can run out of power if you use too much of it. You also have cameras to see where the animatronics are going, and for Foxy and Freddy, you need to be looking at them on the cameras. And there's no lore connected to that. That's just kind of like a stupid gameplay mechanic. I never liked Foxy, at least not in the first 10 games. Anyway, your character is Mike, not Michael, Schmidt, not Afton, which is great. Aftons didn't really exist. Yes, there were dead kids, and yes, they were shoved into the suits. We knew that in FNAF 1. But that doesn't mean that Scott knew William Afton was a thing. And maybe he did, but he didn't tell us in any way. We had to figure that out, I think, during the second or third game. I don't really know. I wasn't there for all of that. Started pretty late during lore, but gameplay, you know, I was early. Pretty early anyway. 2015, early 15, late 14, something like that. 14 was when it came out. Go watch the Daco interview. So Five Nights at Freddy's 1 does have a story behind it. It's a little different than our version, because our version is completely based off the sequels, right? Ever since FNAF 2, we were like, oh, yellow animatronics, spring locks, and then we got into all the spring locks, sound illusion discs. Then the books came out. Horrible idea. Terrible idea. And if you don't think they're that bad, then you didn't read the twisted ones. That got weird. If you know, you know. So the FNAF 1 story goes like this. Animatronics trying to get you because they see you as a metal endoskeleton, and they need to stuff you into a suit because it's company policy. It's Fazbear, and it's part of the rules. But I think it's not because they were possessed by dead children. I think it's simply because of their servos, like the phone guy says.
So just be aware, the characters do tend to wander a bit. They're left in some kind of free roaming mode at night. Something about their servos locking up, they get turned off for too long. They used to be allowed to walk around during the day too. But then there was the bite of 87.
Was that the bite of 87?
They used to be allowed to walk around during the day, but then there was the bite of 87.
Was that the bite of 87?
Which we will have to get into. So then they had to shut down the system where they walk around during the day. And since it's locked up all day, they have to exhaust to walk around at night. Just because, simply because they've been turned off all day. So when they lock up, they gotta unlock. And then they walk around. And the reason they kill you is not because they're the vengeful spirits or something like that. I don't know, MatPat. It's because of the robotic programming that they have. So, yeah, now the bite of 87.
Was that the bite of 87?
This is where my theory of what the story was before we messed it up, and that Scott had in mind, this is where that kind of gets messed up. Because the bite of 87 originally was Fredbear. But then we found out it was the bite of 83. So now, I don't think we're quite sure what the bite of 87 was. I know we thought it was Mangle, That's a great theory. But remember, it was mentioned in FNAF 1, which had a completely different story, because, you know, Scott made this one game. Scott made this one game. He wasn't even expecting to make sequels or anything like that. He was making one singular game with its own story, and this is the story. This is what I'm explaining. So what could the Bite of 87 be? Before we get into that, if we get 10 likes, we will have 10 likes. Just please get me to that. Okay, thank you. Like literally, absolutely, positively, connection, terminate the like button. Thank you. And now the most exciting part of a boring video, the Bite of 87. It took me a while to remember, but... Why did I do this? Why did I get this idea? I just remembered, if you remember, the rules poster in the right hall corner, that's not exactly what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about, you know. Don't yell, don't push, don't run, don't poop on the floor, all that. But one of them is don't touch Freddy. And we put Freddy under a little light, remember that? And we saw the handprint on his eye and his jaw. You know, and so after the second game, we were like, oh, that's because, you know, William Afton was stuffing them into suits. Which isn't the case, because the animatronics that children were being stuffed into are the withered animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And these are completely different animatronics. So it can't be that. So this means that there was a universe where Freddy Fazbear was the Bite of 87. After all, the original location should have existed sometime around 1987. And don't say that I'm wrong with that, okay? I don't want... Remember, this is the original story, okay? None of the other theories existed back when this game was being made. I'm not talking about after it's made, right? I'm saying while Scott was putting it in, what he was most likely thinking. Freddy Fazbear was the cause of the Bite of 87. The Bite victim is a completely different story. I'm not saying it's the crying child, because again, the Aftons didn't even exist. It was probably just a random kid. They can't walk around anymore. Someone touched Freddy. That was the Bite. Golden Freddy. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh, yes.
Oh no, I completely forgot about Golden Freddy. This is gonna be a problem.
Wait, why problem?
Cause Golden Freddy is Fredbear, canonically.
They're the same?
Yeah, and Fredbear was the cause of the Bite of 87. So what would Golden Freddy be if not Cassidy?
Golden Freddy.
All right, but it's an old Fredbear suit. Dude! Okay. Alright, so I figured something out. So you know how there's missing children? And you know how in FNAF 2 they said they used a yellow suit? Scott said that, okay? He already had that in mind. He knew that was going to happen. The yellow suit was not Spring Bonnie. It was actually Fredbear, a.k.a. Golden Freddy. So whoever the killer was would wear the Fredbear suit rather than the Spring Bonnie suit, and use that instead of the rabbit. So Golden Freddy is like a ghostly version of, because it, you know, it's not William Afton, at least I don't think. It's some killer. It's the ghostly version of that killer instead of it being Bonnie. So Golden Freddy is the spirit version, because, you know, you see him on the poster first. You see his face on the poster. And then you see then you see him in his office, and it's an empty suit. It's not an animatronic. It doesn't even have an endoskeleton. That was, at the time, that version of William Afton. Which means that Fredbear's Family Diner probably existed, right? Well, that doesn't have to be the case. It could just be a separate character. So you know how Foxy isn't on the stage? Maybe it's like, you know, just a version of Freddy they didn't use. After all, Winnie the Pooh is yellow. Doesn't have to be a grizzly bear like Freddy. It could have been a yellow bear at first, which is, my guess, that's probably what it was at the time. The whole "it's me" thing. There is an explanation for that now that makes perfect sense, but back then, I want to say it's the dead kids, but It's the bite victim. It's me. It's the bite victim. The bite victim is the one writing "It's me" on the walls. The one writing "It's me" on Foxy's Pirate Cove. Yes, I said Golden Freddy was the ghost, but there could be another ghost, right? "It's me" could have been the child that Freddy bit. Simple. It could be the killer, but there's already something that symbolizes the killer. So I think there's two forces. Golden Freddy, aka the killer, and "It's me," aka the bite victim. Try fitting that into the timeline. Well, yeah, that's it. Like, share, comment your thoughts. Tell me if I missed anything or if I was wrong, which I'm never wrong. Am I wrong, Nate? No. I'm not? Never. That's what I thought. Have a fantastic day.